What is going on, dudes? It's Hunter with LS Lures. We're back with another Tackle Talk Tuesday, and today we are going to be talking about the deadly Ned. We're going to be talking about 4 essential tips to catch more bigger fish on it. We're going to be going over line, bait choice, action, and a sneaky little tip at the end to catch more fish this fall on it. The bite can be really tough. Now's a really hard time to catch fish depending on the day. Sometimes it's really good, sometimes it's really bad, and sometimes it's just somewhere in between and you don't really know what's going on. But we're gonna break down some awesome tips for you guys. Stick around, make sure you like and subscribe, and let's get into the deadly Nedley. You guys know the drill. It's Tuesday, which means we've got a killer deal dropping tomorrow, Wednesday, October 1st. This deal is 20% off all of our arc jigs. We've got a bunch more in stock right now, so be sure you guys check these out on our website, which is linked below. This is our living rubber hybrid jig, so it's got silicone and living rubber on it. It's got a kick-ass wire guard on there, which is great for cold water. It's great for finicky fish, and it is a perfect bait to get a ton of bites on this time of year, all the way through winter and into the early spring there. So make sure you check these out. Like I said, we've got everything back in stock, 20% off, save you guys some money. The link is right down below. Next thing I want to apologize for, guys, it's going to be a little echoey in this video. We had to shut the door. It sounds like there's a damn war zone going on outside because the neighbors are re-roofing. Everyone's mowing, the wind's blowing. It's about the worst possible case scenario. So we've got the shop locked down. It's going to be a little echoey, but we've also got our nice mics coming in tomorrow. So video audio is about to get way better, but just want to apologize really quick for that. It's going to be a little echoey here. We live in a little chamber that we make jigs in, but it is what it is. We'll get through. We're going to drop some dang knowledge on you guys. All right, dudes, the first tip in this video is going to be relating to line. What line I like to throw, what's going to make you the most efficient, effective angler on the water. It's going to result in a lot further casts, a lot better sensitivity, less fish coming off, popping off for any reason. You're not going to miss as many bites. And the line that is going to do that is actually going to be 2 lines. And step number 1 or tip number 1 is going to be, if you're going to throw a Ned rig, you should be throwing it on straight braid to a fluorocarbon leader. I know there's a lot of guys out there that are going to say, oh, you know, I like running straight mono, I like throwing straight fluoro, and that's fine. But when you run straight mono or straight fluoro, I don't care who you are, there's a lot more line stretch, there's a lot more line memory, so you're gonna have to replace line more, you're gonna lose your casting distance. It's just not quite as effective, especially when you're finesse fishing, to not be able to cast as far, to not, you know, have that, God. With running those 2 straight lines, you are gonna be able to catch fish. You're just not gonna be as effective because with braid to a fluorocarbon leader there, I'm gonna get all the benefits of braid, which means no memory. It'll last me all year, years sometimes, depending on how you treat it there. It's a lot stronger, it's got no stretch, so you're gonna get a lot better hook penetration on those fish, especially with further casts, which braid allows you to cast farther there. And it's a lot more sensitive too. So with that, geez, I'm throwing stuff everywhere. With that line not having any stretch, the second that fish freaking breathes on your bait, you're gonna feel it. And then the rest of it just comes down to the fluorocarbon you're running there. I like to run an 8 to 12 pound leader. Sometimes I'll go down to 6 if I'm in really gin clear water, they're super pressured. But most of the time for my fluorocarbon leader, I run 8 to 12 pound. You can bump it up if you're around heavy rock or zebra mussels. I've gone as high as 17 before when I'm fishing some really, really nasty stuff and just fished it as like a shock leader if the fish are dumb. And if they're dumb and they're gonna eat 17 or 15, run it. Who cares, right? You can get away with it. Use it as a shock leader and you can just force those suckers in. But most of the time, I'm gonna run 8 to 12 pound test there. But with that, you've already got all the benefits of braid. Now you've got a fluorocarbon leader, so they can't see your line. You're gonna get that shock absorption too, so every time they pull on it there, this is gonna have just enough stretch to really kind of play that fish out a little bit better to where it's not just ripping that hook out of their mouth there. And if you run this in, you know, somewhere between 2 to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 feet of leader there, you don't really have to worry about always retying that leader knot if you tie the right one. I run an Alberto, some guys run an FG. You do you, run whatever's most comfortable, but if you want to be better at fishing a Ned rig, the first step is to run some kind of medium light rod. You can run a medium if you want. I like a medium light, somewhere around 6, 8, 7 foot, anything in between there. You can go longer if you want to be able to cast further. Run some kind of 10 to 20 pound braid on there and then run a fluorocarbon leader, you're gonna be able to cast farther, you're gonna lose less fish, your hook sets are gonna be a lot better, the sensitivity is better, everything about it's better. So if you guys are running on straight mono or straight fluoro right now, you can keep doing that if you want. If you like it, that's great, but absolutely do not be afraid to try switching over that braid to a fluorocarbon leader, and you're gonna catch a lot more fish, you're gonna lose a lot less, and you don't have to worry about not getting a good hook set when you sling that sucker out there. And the last thing that I really brings me a lot of comfort doing this is that as fish get smarter, and typically when I'm throwing a Ned rig, it's gonna be in super clear water, I can make further casts with braid, which means that the likelihood of me spooking those fish goes down substantially because I can cast farther, I can get to them before they have any idea I'm there, and I'm gonna catch a lot more. Tip 2 in this video is more of an action thing, okay? We've already talked about what kind of line you should be throwing, what I like to throw, what's been super effective for me. The second step in this video is gonna be how to work that bait. And one thing I see a lot of guys doing that absolutely drives me crazy when it comes to fishing a Ned rig is they're overfishing it, they're doing way too much. A Ned rig is supposed to be a super slow presentation, it's not supposed to have a lot of action, and typically, more often than not, the best way to get that bait to perform and get a lot more bites is to do as little as possible with it, okay? It's something that you're gonna be scrubbing the bottom with. You don't wanna do these big hops, you don't wanna be shaking it a whole lot. Some of my absolute best days on a Ned rig are just me moving that bait 6 to 8 inches, you know, tiny little lifts of the rod, and then I let it sit there for 10 to 30 seconds sometimes longer, and you just dead stick the ever-living crap out of it. So if you guys wanna be a lot more effective, get a lot more bites, if you're in an area that you know has fish, and you're throwing a Ned rig, don't be afraid to let that bait sit on the bottom, let those fish come over. If you're throwing some kind of Z-Man plastic, which is my absolute favorite, if you're gonna be throwing a Ned rig, throw something that floats, preferably. Again, I'm not saying you can't catch them on anything else, but if you're gonna throw Z-Man plastic or anything like that, make sure you work the salt out of it, okay? Take that bait, rub down it a little bit there, so that way all that salt comes out, because a lot of times when they take these baits out of the package, if you throw them right in the water, some of them are gonna sink just because the salt content in them is a little high. So if you snap those out just a little bit, they look a little bit uglier, first of all. I like them when they look beat up. I think it looks a little bit more natural there. And then they're gonna stand straight up on the bottom there. So you don't have to do anything. If I'm fishing an area that has a lot of fish, if they've been beat up, the most effective thing you can do is toss that Ned rig out there, put it in the strike zone, let it sit on the bottom, and just don't move it. And they're gonna sit there and they're gonna look at it, it's gonna drive them nuts. And what a lot of guys make the mistake of doing is they're sitting there shaking it, they're moving it too much, and more often than not, if you're throwing a Ned rig, you're fishing for fish that have been pretty beat up, or you just wanna get a lot of bites, don't overwork it, okay? Let it be a Ned rig, let it sit on the bottom, get that salt out if you're throwing Z-Man or any kind of floating plastic there. Let it sit. Take your sweet time, don't do any big extravagant hops, okay? You're trying to look like something little and dumb sitting on the bottom, and you will catch more fish. Tip number 3 for this video, guys, applies to if you're smallmouth fishing or if you're fishing in dirtier water, and that is gonna be to throw a chartreuse head. You know, this is kind of a sneaky little deal. Not a lot of guys know about it, not a lot of guys do it. Some guys don't think it matters whatsoever, but if you're fishing for smallmouth, you're in gin clear water, and you want them to come over and look at your bait, throwing a chartreuse head is a great way to do it. I don't care if the weather's sunny or cloudy or if it's windy or if it's slick calm. If you're in an area with a lot of smallmouth and a lot of big smallmouth and you really want to catch their eye, if everybody else is throwing the same green pumpkin and blackheads and stuff like that, and you want to get that fish that's just a little bit further away to come over and check that out, you can mix that curiosity with the food there to where my bait's green pumpkin, I've got a chartreuse head. Every time I hop that bait off the bottom, it comes up, it flashes that chartreuse, they get a good look at it, they come over to investigate, and then when they get there, it's standing up just like this. This is the LS Ned head. It's great around cover, bigger rocks, stuff like that. It's got a really sick little EWG hook in there. You can just text pose super easy, but mix the curiosity with the prey drive, okay? Show them something that's natural, give them a little bit of flash, and get those fish to come over there. So whether or not you're fishing for smallmouth and gin clear water, or you're fishing for dirty water largemouth, if you're fishing along an area that you know has fish that've been beat up and you just need to squeak out a couple more bites, sometimes that chartreuse head is a great way to get those fish's attention. Again, it shows up really well, it's a little bit brighter. You can throw a Ned rig in some places that you wouldn't typically throw a Ned rig just because you've got that chartreuse head on there. It's a little bit flashier, and this is a super effective way to catch both largemouth, smallmouth, in clear water and dirty water. You get their attention, you bring them in close, and you hook them in the dang face. Alrighty boys, tip number 4, the last one of this show here. This is going to be a little bit shorter episode. You know, some days we're talking for 30, 45 minutes, almost an hour, really diving in, breaking stuff down. This video is not going to be like that today. We're going to drop some really good tips for you guys, send you guys on your way, keep things short. We're going to keep bouncing around. That way every single video we put out isn't the whole entire production process of a movie, you know. So today's is going to be a little bit shorter, but the last tip I want to talk about there, especially going into fall, you know, there's a lot of little bait fish up shallow, there's a lot of fish up shallow, and there's a ton of opportunity to catch fish doing a bunch of different things. And one of the best ways to do that is by throwing a Ned bait that is not a traditional Ned bait. You know, a lot of guys associate a Ned rig with a green pumpkin TRD or something that looks like this that doesn't have a ton of action. It's green pumpkin, it's brown, you know, it sits on the bottom, it looks like nothing, it looks like a crawdad or whatever, but a really effective way to catch fish, especially right now when there's so much little bait up and around, when those fish are really tight-lipped, is by throwing something like a little mooch minnow or some kind of shad bait, you know, that still floats, still has a bunch of really good action off the back there, but you can hop this sucker on the bottom just like a Ned rig and it will catch fish all dang day long, you know. There's so many fish, especially shad, up on the bank right now. Those fish are roaming around, ticking against the rocks. So this is a really good way to mimic those, soak in those areas, show those fish something a little bit different, because more often than not, when they're looking at these baits, somebody's sitting there shaking, snapping their rod with it above their head. So it's a good way to present that profile just a little bit different way. Hop it on the bottom, sit there and shake it, let that tail go crazy, make it look like those shad feeding on all the algae on the rocks or whatever the hell they eat, and get a ton of bites doing it, all right? Another thing that you can do with this that makes it super effective, especially this time of year, is I can take this bait on a Ned head, that hook fits perfect on there, I can tick it on the bottom, I can drag it around, I can fish it wherever I want in those areas where those fish are glued to the bottom and they're being kind of stingy. And then at the same point in time, if they come up schooling next to me, if they get more active, or if I'm just burning it back to the boat, this all of a sudden is just another jig head minnow, right? I can reel this, I can cast it, I can shake it along. It's an 1/8 ounce head, and it works just absolutely the exact same. So at the end of the day, absolutely do not be afraid to go from your standard Ned rig there, green pumpkin, whatever it may be, switch over, match the hatch, fish for some of those fish feeding on those little bait fish, show them something different, and catch a lot more here this fall. But that is all I've got for you boys today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you guys watching another Tactical Talk Tuesday. This one is a little bit shorter. Again, I apologize for the echoes, but make sure you guys like and subscribe. We've got another badass video dropping Saturday. We're doing another cast to catch. We're making some kick-ass custom jigs that are going live on the website on Saturday. Do not forget to check out 20% off our art jigs there. That is gonna be a sweet deal, and that is good until Friday at midnight. So thank you guys all so much for watching. Let me know whatever you want me to know about fishing Ned Rig below. You know, I always appreciate you guys commenting. Tell me what baits you like to throw. Tell me where you like to throw a Ned Rig. Tell me what kind of line you like to run, you know, whatever. This is a place for people to talk. This is a place for people to exchange information there. So do not be afraid to voice your opinion down below. But I appreciate you all watching. Don't be afraid to try these tips and catch a lot more fish on a Ned Rig this fall.